Welcome again to Nourished by Spinneys. I'm Tiffany Eslick. Last week, I spoke to Chef Himanshu Saini from TresInd Studio, who shared his cooking inspirations and the story behind his now iconic restaurants in Dubai. We also spoke about the new Rising India menu at TresInd Studio, and we have all the delicious details behind the dishes on this bonus episode for you. I was wondering if you can talk a little bit about the different regions and a few characteristics of them from the cuisine.
One of the first regions which we showcase in our menu is the Thar Desert. And it's something also which is not very commonly been spoken about. And you would not find many restaurants adopting those ingredients also or those preparations, because now it's so multicultural that what is available in the south will also be available in the west.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is accessible. But then we just talk about few ingredients like, of course, with the climate, there is a lot of chilies being used because it's so hot in that region. And back in the day, the chilies are being consumed to maintain the temperature of the body. The more you sweat, the more colder your body temperature is going to get. So that's how they get into chilies. So everywhere in India where you find hot preparations, the first primary reason back in the day, now it's just part of their culture, but it has been started from those days where people want to maintain the body temperature, and chilies was one of the ways to do that. And Rajasthan, where most of the Thar Desert is known for its chilies. And of course, back in the day, of course, there was no method of preserving food. There was hardly any vegetables and leaves growing in there and plants. So most of the things which they could get from other parts of the country, they would bring, or whatever they were growing in the season, they try to preserve it. So pickling was one of the oldest and the unique methods, which is still being followed today. Even like how with the heat, the poppadoms, they come out from those places where with the direct sunlight, you dry the poppadoms out. And we reflect all of that in our menu. For example, we have a preparation which is just dedicated to the pickling spices, because the pickling also which happens in India in general is very different to the pickling methods of the West. Indian pickles you see are mostly based out of mustard oil, has dominant flavors of the spices. So we highlight those pickling flavors with the pepper. Of course, we bring in a form of chili, but not as hot. We fry the pepper in the chickpea tempura. It's something we make in the kitchen. And chickpea as an ingredient is also very common. Lot of time chickpea flour is used as a thickener in the curries. They make the pastry like a kachori for the street food. So chickpea flour is used in many ways. So we make a tempura, we fry the pepper with the tempura, and then we fill it with the emulsion of our pickling spices. We make our own. It's not a very traditional one, but we try to make our own blend of the spices. And then we serve a buttermilk curry along, ice cream of buttermilk curry along with it. It's one of the popular dishes in the menu. And even the use of dairy is also quite big, because there was a scarcity of water, and anything to do with dairy, milk, butter, buttermilk, cream, and all of these things you would see highly being used in the cuisine. And then we have a dish just based out of the cactus, the Nopales cactus. It's amazing that we call it Nopales, because in India we call it Nagfani.
Okay.
But of course in the world it is known by the name Nopales.
Yeah.
The prickly pear one.
Yeah.
And it's something which is, of course, in the region it's grown in abundance, but now a lot of people don't use it. I think for sure back in the day there were preparations, but now you don't see them anywhere in even in the regional kitchens there. So it's something which I feel very happy that we can brought in such ingredients. And of course, when I see the trend, I'm sure that many young chefs will pick it up, and then will try to do something amazing with it. So for me, every menu we try to bring in at least 4 or 5 new ingredients which we have not worked in the past, mostly vegetables or herbs or plants, and then we see how we can incorporate in the menu. So yeah, I think I can go on and on about
all the different
for example in Thar also, because it was one of those places back in India where you have the kingdoms which used to run, and the style of food used to be very different. there were vegetarians community who would uh, eat certain things, and then there were the kings and the Rajputs who would prefer to do the hunt and the game, and would go in for the game meat, and they would back in the day go out and hunt animals. So it's an endless conversation, but yeah, in the menu we try to explain the region based out of our dishes so that people can connect more. But the main outline of that region is this: that you will have a lot of dairy products being used, the chickpea or chickpea flour being used in many forms. Even the dish of cactus is done with the bread which is made out of the chickpea flours, and it's a bit doughy, it's a chewy bread. But then we cure the cactus also. We make a curry with it. We fill it with the in the bread. Then we use the cultured butter, and we use the cactus itself, which we compressed in arugula, because cactus really doesn't have a flavor of its own. It's just sour in taste and has some bite to it. So we used arugula as a flavorful herb to compress and increase more vegetal flavors from the cactus. So then going forward, we have Deccan Plateau, which is probably the biggest region. It is that area which surrounded with the eastern and western Ghats. So the whole monsoon and the rainfall and the produce, it just depends upon the eastern and western Ghats, and of course going forward in the north with the Himalayas. So the whole monsoon cycle and the rainfall is been affected by this region. So you will find many crops, rice. You will still find coconut. In the menu, we have an amazing story with coconut. We utilize it to its fullest form. Like when you enter as a welcome drink, we serve you the coconut water, and then in one of the dishes, we served you the flesh of the coconut as
Yeah.
a kebab, as a skewer. Then
I think that was one of my favorite that looked
yeah,
like a dragonfly.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
The next one dish has the first press of the coconut, which is rich and creamy, has the best flavors. The following dish, we use the second press of the coconut, which is a bit milder in flavor and delicate. And then we use the shell of the coconut. Sometimes we use to smoke anything, the husk of it. We sometimes put it in the mix with the charcoal and try to use it in. So for me, it's very interesting to see that in our menu we have so many applications of coconut. Even as a palm tree, for example, we use the heart of palm in the coconut skewer itself for the bite. So, and coconut is again something which is so intrinsic to what grows down in the south and in Deccan, and even in the coastal plains. Uh, so I think the other thing which is very important from that region is we do a dish which is based out of a ceremony in South India which is called Sadhya. It's done during Onam. Uh, it's a festival uh, which is celebrated by different names in South India, but the one which we do is from Sadhya from Kerala, and for me that's one dish which is very close to my heart, is because for me it's absolutely, we bring out a lot of emotions when we serve the dish, because we put as many as 10 elements and we try to play it in front of the guests so they get to be a part of the experience. And that's how the ceremony is also performed. Dishes are being served one by one. It's a ceremony which has 25 dishes being served as a spoonful. So we try to narrow it down to 10 ingredients or preparation which and matches up the flavors of many preparations. And it's something which has been in our menu for many years. We started off serving that dish as a pre-dessert when we first cooked that one, but it was Chef Massimo Batura who mentioned that you should serve this dish somewhere in the middle, right in the middle, and it will have different impact on the diners, because by the end of the meal you get more tired, you get
Yeah.
you're a bit drunk, you're more tired for with a long meal.
Yeah.
So
It's a very I loved it. Like you
yeah,
feel so part of the whole experience,
yeah,
and kind of like this individual attention that you're getting as well from
yeah,
everyone coming up and plating each element.
yeah,
It was very special.
yeah.
Yeah, very immersive. So
So then going forward, we have the coastal plains. Of course, that's the place where we do as many seafood dishes. But even the coastal plains has a long coastal line. India has a long coastal belt, and so we go region by region within itself, every region from the coast would use a souring agent, for example, which would be very different, like kokum, which is a typical native fruit which is being used as a souring agent. Then you go further down, a lot of people use tamarind as a souring agent in the preparation. Then you go on the east coast, so raw mango is more part of it. And then on the west, also on the Goan coast, you would see a lot of vinegars being used. So in the three preparations of in the five preparations overall, we try to explore the souring agents to its nature. There would be a souring agent in all the three dishes, which are different from different region. Then the cinnamon, which comes into the play, the dish with the crab in it.
Oh, I love that. And
Yeah,
I mean, just the plating of that is kind of like taking you into this other world, you know. It was very swirly and mesmerizing, and
yeah,
it was a beautiful dish.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I think like this, as I said, there are more relation to the region being based out of the dishes. Otherwise, it can be a endless discussion.
Mm.
We try to narrow it down based on the dishes. And then when we go to the north, we go to more rustic, more humble food. We do a preparation of a lamb dish where we prepare the korma, the traditional curry from Kashmir,
Mhm.
which is made out of the ripe plums. So we make here with the unripe plums, which were in the season at this moment till now. And then we do a dish of a scarpetta with the kebab, which
Mhm.
is about exploring the best flavors of the kebab, which is often the ones which are always stuck in the pan and
Mm.
which are greasy, messy, fatty. Uh, and that's also one of the dishes which become popular, hard to change,
Yeah.
hard to get out of the menu. And then we bring the essence also. We call it scarpetta because of an association with many people. They know about it, but also in India we call it kurchan. It's the same way of eating it with the piece of bread. You just scrape it
Yeah.
with the leftovers of a pan or of a plate. And then we do one rustic dish of mushrooms from the northeast part of India. So we make a preparation of noodles, but we don't use noodles. We use the mushroom, the king oyster. We cut it like noodles and then we cook it with an exo sauce we make out of mushrooms only. And then it has the mushroom broth, it has morels, it has pickled mushrooms. So it has the whole hearty bowl of
Yeah, it
mushrooms.
was an umami
Yes.
flavor bomb, and I
Yeah.
thought the noodles
Yeah.
were so clever. I wanted to touch on your bar program
Yeah.
because I thoroughly enjoyed the pairing with all the different drinks. I think the red pepper and whiskey drink, as well
Yeah.
as the black lime gin wine,
Yeah.
really stood out for me. Tell me about the kind of the thinking behind this. I mean, I think you really are doing something different in town.
I'm not a big wine drinker myself, so it's for me. It's wine is a different is as big as food in itself. It's so diverse. It's so big. So for me, wine is always difficult on my palate. Of course, I enjoy a good glass of wine, but when you ask me to compare to food, I just somewhere lack in that. So, and of course, I always believe that this is something. Dubai is doesn't have a great wine culture to begin with. So is India. Uh, and as I said, then the first thing which we would do is that something we need to love ourselves to be able to do it perfectly in the restaurant. So we found it complicated to do wines with Indian food. Of course, it can work in many different ways, but then you need to find the right labels, the right understanding. Uh, and we struggled. We have a wine paired menu before, but we struggled a lot. And this is something which we always wanted to do. But back in the day, we've done one menu with the cocktails, but then cocktails becomes too heavy
Mm.
to go along with the drinks. And then we have one moment we I was in Italy, and then I met this person called Dom Carella, who is our mixologist consultant on board. He's Italian. He has a bar in Milan. It's called Carico,
Mhm.
which everyone
Mm.
should and must visit. It's
Yeah.
amazing. And he has worked in Indian restaurant before in his life in Hong Kong, so he has understanding of Indian food. And he came over to try our dishes, and he fell in love with our food also. And then I think it's a great understanding with him because he understands Indian food, and I could tell him that what I want with my dishes. And he came up with the whole concept of the bar program, even the cocktails, everything in the bar has been designed through him. But of course, we've gone through a lot in that process. And of course, to begin with, there was a bit of a backfire with many people because we were getting used to, people are used to wines with the tasting menu experiences, and to change that narrative took us some time. But now I think we are really, again, that's something which we are really proud of. There are few favorites. One which you mentioned, the one with the red bell pepper and whiskey. The whiskey which we used here is an Indian whiskey, which is Amrut. It's smoky, and then we use the uh, red bell peppers, and we infuse it uh, with a cordial we make out of coconut. Uh, it's just a interesting, light, refreshing drink to begin with, and all the drinks in the menu are low in alcohol percentage. So even though there are 9 glasses, you feel absolutely fine when you complete the experience. The proportions are just right. Sometimes we serve the synergy pairings, uh, not to pair, but actually to uh, served as a palate cleanser also. So not every drink is served to match with the flavors or to enhance the flavors of the dishes or vice versa, but there are many which are just being done so that your palate can be cleaned and then you're ready to go again, for especially for next region, where we want absolute neutral palate. So it's been cleverly being used in different ways. So imagine dishes which doesn't have any pairing are the ones with broths. So literally you get a bit of liquid with every dish.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, really, really interesting. And I think it's, as you say, you got backlash, but it is. I like your role in educating your customers, and and now people are becoming accustomed to it, and that's what we need.
We have some in front of us.
So this is the black lime gin wine,
This
right?
is the black lime gin wine.
Yeah.
For this one, we use the Omani black limes and sometimes the Moroccan black lime, and we use the peels of the banana. So we use, for example, for one of the dishes which comes along with it, we use the banana. So without wasting anything, we use the banana's peels to infuse it with black lime, and we add our own redistilled homemade gin. And then, of course, it has some acidity coming in from the citric acid, malic acid, some balance with sugar. The only reason we call it wine is because it just looks like wine.
Yeah.
And it's being served like a wine, but otherwise it has nothing to do with
Yeah.
wine.
Thank you for joining us on this bonus episode of Nourished by Spinneys. I'm Tiffany Eslick, and we'll see you again next week with a new episode.